everybody, it's Jean here from True Love Quilts for You. I'm going to be showing you my second week's block for our block party. We've gotten some really nice responses back for making the block number one and my twirling block number one, twirling ribbons type of thing. And actually, before I show you the second week's block, I wanted to tell you that on my web page, which is the whateverquiltclub.com, if you there's a page called Community Blocks. You have to bear with me. This is new. I made a web page, $90 for 2 years. I don't know what I'm doing, but my son-in-law, who's actually a web designer, he's like, for not knowing what you're doing, I did good. And all I wanted to do is to show you everybody's different blocks. So there's a page called Community Blocks. If you send me a picture, just a picture of your block, to send it to me at my email, which is truelovequiltsforyou@gmail.com. If you want to just send that, truelovequiltsforyou@gmail.com, I can then upload your block picture onto the Community Blocks page so everybody can see what our individual blocks look like. It's nice to see everybody's colorways if you want to do that. All I will be doing is having your first name and a picture. That's it on my thing. I have 4 of them already. I have Ann's, Jen's, Allie's, and Pat's blocks, and they're nice to see everybody's progress. Excuse me. So anyway, that's that. If you want to share a block, we can put it on my website, and we can just, see how everybody's doing. Block number 2, the tutorial to follow. What do you think? It's sweet. It's simple. Simple, simple, simple. Everybody said, I didn't realize everybody said, like, the first one, like, oh, Jen was saying, I couldn't believe that. Like, what are you talking about? That was hard, but she did it. She did it. And a couple other people, they're like, I did it. We can't believe it. So that may have been a little bit more precise. This one is so very, very easy. This is called a snowball block. As you can see, it's just sort of a squared off. Just one of them is a squared off circle, as it were. Very old-fashioned block because it was so easy. Just some corner triangles, and again, I show you exactly how to construct it. And this one will use, as you can see, 4 of your fat quarter prints with a little bit of, just a tiny little bit of the background fabric. So this one you can really, pull whichever prints you like and make a real pleasing, very, very patterned quilt block. I show you how to make it. This is an easy one. Again, 1/4 inch seams. I can't stress that enough. Go slow, 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 slow at your points and your intersections, and pin, pin, pin. You'll be pleased with the results if you do. And again, 12.5 inches square, and if it doesn't measure 12.5 inches, don't sweat it, don't stress. We're all just beginners here, but this is our block number 2, tutorial to follow. So I hope you're enjoying it. I'm having fun. It's nice. Everybody's excited to see. I like the fact that we can see what everybody else is doing. So again, you can email me at truelovequiltsforyou@gmail.com, and then I can just throw that up on my web page, which is the www.thewhateverquiltclub.com. Because whatever, right? whatever we're making, however we're making it. I was thinking if somebody said, somebody commented and said, oh, I just made my first block, and then somebody else said, oh, make another one. I'm thinking, maybe you just want to start, if you perfect one block, you could just make one block. It would be funny. And just put them all together. I would make a quilt. There's one block of quilts. Or if you don't like a block, I don't want you to be stressed like, oh my word, I have to do exactly. You can do what you want. It's just learning some new techniques and a sweet little block. And this is block number 2. So again, folks, hope you're enjoying yourself. That's the whole point of it. Hope you're enjoying it. I am. So I'm gonna put my tutorial on here, and I'll put it up probably a week, whenever I put it up. Usually I'm going to put a week or 7 or 8 days between the blocks. Not a block of the month. I'm like, we can do more than a block of the month. And anyway, you have it on my video. Oh, I was very, very pleased because I had said the last time, and I hope you didn't think I was like being all flippant, like I don't make patterns. Like I said that in block 1. And people are like, oh no, you know, you don't have to write a pattern. I hope I didn't come across as sarcastic and flippant, which I do tend to do a lot. But I don't make patterns. I follow a pattern from my head or from an old magazine to get my blocks. I've made these blocks before, but I can't write them down. So I hope, and as people have said, I'm describing them okay on my video, and you can follow along. So I appreciate that very much. Okay, folks, thanks so much. See you later. Bye. So here we are on to the second one of our second block for our block party, and you'll have seen the block. And what it is I was explaining in my introduction. The Snowball unit is one of the oldest quilting blocks, really. Quilt blocks and quilt history is very interesting. The Snowball unit's a very simple block to make, but we're making 4 of them in this block. Okay, so what I've done is I've pulled my 4 different fabrics which I wanted to have together. Again, my fat quarters all coordinate very nice, so I have a nice assortment of these 4 fat quarters. Now all I'm going to be doing is I'm cutting from each fat quarter, and I've taken over to my ironing board, and you can't really tell that I've ironed it, but I have, because they come very folded, and so you might not be able to get the folds out, but I just like to get as many folds out as I can. I'll do 2 at a time here. What we're going to do, and here's the selvages over here, so I'm going to be working on this side over here. Wait a second. Oh, here, the selvage is over here. I'm going to be working on this side over here. Hopefully, am I in the frame? Yeah. Over here, I'm going to be wanting to cut a 6.5 inch square out of this fabric here. So I put 2 of them together, and they don't match up quite. So what I'm going to do is, this is how I do it. Again, it may not be how everybody else does it. I just slice off that little bit there to make a nice square bottom, and then I'll come over here and slice off this side here to make that square top. And then I have a nice square here, and then I take my ruler and I find the 6.5 inch square for right here. So my 6.5 inch, oh, I just needed to do a little tiny bit more. There's my bottom. I'll clean that up. My 6.5 inch here, my 6.5 inch there, right along here. So now I know that this piece here with my ruler is 6.5 inches. So I just go up there and I go over there. Oops. And there are my 2 6.5 inch pieces, and I'll just repeat it the same way. My selvages are over here, and I'll just square this up here. I'll just square up the bottom here, and I'll square up the sides here. Just take a little sliver off, and then I'll just have I'll just measure my 6.5 inches on this corner. 6.5 there, 6.5 there, and I will have cut 4 6.5 inch squares. Now these are very creased. I will go along and I'll probably starch them or size them to get out that crease. That's not very pleasant. Now, what I'm going to be needing is a bunch of, I need 16 for this block. It's a very simple block, but I need 16 2.25 inch squares. So I come along here, and I know my fabric is squared up. And I'll fix it on this line here, and using my 6 by 24 inch ruler. You can see why I like to have the 24-inch ruler, because you can really get the whole length of your fabric here, especially with a larger cutting mat. Hopefully you'll have had. So now I take my ruler, and again, this is how I do it. And I want a strip. It's all straightened up here, and I want a strip that's 2 1/4 inches. So I go from 2 1/4 there, 2 1/4, and I come back down, adjusting my ruler, and there's my 2 1/4 inch strip. Slowly and carefully. Now, I'm not quite sure if I can get 16. Can I get 16 out of here? Actually, I'm gonna cut this in. I'm gonna do that in half. So that's 4. So I'm gonna go. Just gonna see if I can get just 16. I'm not quite sure if I can. Just gonna slice that fold off and those selvages off, and then just slice that little fold off. So now that's 4. So I just put this is 2 1/4, and I just do 2 1/4 there. I think I can. So there's 4. I need 16 of these. 8. Yep, I can do it. Out of 1 strip. 2 1/4. 12 and 16. And then there's just a bit of waste there. So there, for our snowball block, this is all we need. We need 16 backgrounds and 4 lovely big bits of your your focal fabrics. So now we're going to start making our snowball units. So I'm over at my ironing board, and we're going to be doing the same method that we did on our block 1 for these units, ironing these things. But for right now, I want to show you that I've really pressed my 6 1/2 inch blocks to get all of those creases out of them. And again, I haven't gotten a chance to get my new ironing board cover. Please forgive it. So what we're going to do with these 16 2 1/4 inch, they've been cut exact, and just as in block 1, what we're just going to do is we're going to press them on the diagonal, and then just so we get a nice tidy seam. Again, for this, this is called a sort of a stitch and flip method. A lot of people will mark, again, will mark with a pencil the center line. I just can't be bothered with that. I find the crease works just as well, as long as you just are very careful. Again, I have a tone-on-tone fabric. I'm very careful that I'm pressing it exactly on the diagonal. So I'm just going to finish these up, and then I'll show you how I'm going to meet you over at my sewing machine, and how we're going to actually construct our snowball block. So I'm now ready to construct our snowball block. And again, what I've done is I've put my squares here, and I've put my my folded edges here. I've started this now, and what we're going to do is, again, it's called a stitch and flip method. It's going to end up sort of looking like this, our block. But what I would like you to do, you have to be very careful, again, as beginners, you want to put your folded square, and you want your crease to go from the, as it were, the inside of the block here to the inside of the block. Do you see? We're making corners. And why I say it's a little bit important, I put a little, I pinned one, I just pinned them to secure them. I pinned it to secure it here, but like you could get confused and you could pin it here. We're going to sew, and then all of a sudden it's like, what? That doesn't make sense. So just be very careful. So that's why I like to pin. Your diagonal goes from this edge here to this edge here to make a snowball. So match up your corners and just have a pin. Now this, remember our first block, what we did is we stitched a 1/4 inch on the outside of that crease line. This time we're actually going to just a hair, we're going to be stitching basically on that creased line, but just a hair inside, just so this has a nice place to fold. We're going to cut this away, but just, you're almost stitching on the creased line, okay? But you're just going to be just a thread away from that creased line. Go slowly, you're almost on that creased line, and right off. Always get rid of your threads. Now, this is what we have, our corner of our block. Now I'm going to finish up all of my blocks, and then I'm going to go over and with a rotary cutter I'm going to cut this off, this area here, so we just have our nice corner snowball block. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pin all of my corners the proper way, diagonal to diagonal, and then I'm just going to sew right almost on the line, just slightly one thread away from that creased line, just so it folds over real nice, just right off. And if you pin it, then it'll be nice and square, and you'll have a nice square block when we're finished and we trim it. And that's our snowball block. I'm going to make all 4 of these with my 16 corner units. I have all of my blocks sewn, my corners sewn on the creased seam edge there. And now what we're going to do on all of our blocks is we want to just flip this back over to the square, and about a 1/4 inch away from the stitching line inside here, we just want to take our whatever ruler you have and cut away the backing, this little corner here, just so we cut that away. Careful not to cut the front, just that little triangle, and we end up, after it's pressed, after it's ironed really well, a beautiful, again, 6.5 inch square, but with a little corner snowball unit. So I'm just going to cut all of my corners away, being careful not to cut this here, because we're cutting the end corners, the end little triangle away, about a 1/4 inch away from that seam that we've just stitched. And then we end up with 4 exact size snowball, they're called snowball blocks. And actually, if you perfect a snowball block, which obviously you can see this is the easiest block you've ever want to done, you can actually make a snowball quilt. And it takes on a whole nother, look at this, it takes on a whole sort of, just one block, takes on a whole new sort of life of its own. See how it makes the square here in the middle? Look, like it's really cool. Like it's really a nice, interesting little block. You can do a lot with snowball blocks. And again, it was one of the original blocks, you know, in sort of quilt history. But it makes, I like this block because you've gotten some beautiful fat quarters and some beautiful focal fabric. And this block is a nice block. It adds a nice punch of our color to our sampler quilt. This is a nice sampler quilt block. I quite like that. So I'm going to just finish up. I'm going to just go press these really well, iron, 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 and then I'm going to come back and we're going to construct our second block. So you'll have seen the layout. As I did, I took the photograph of it, you'll have seen the layout of our snowball block. And here it is. Very simple block. This is a very easy block this week. So what we're going to do is we've laid it out. We've pressed that down as well as we can. And again, just like in our first block, we're going to flip it. We just have 2 units. 1, 2. We're just going to pull this over here. Very important that you get your pins and you match those snowballs. You match that seam right there and make your 1/4 inch seam, because we want those white snowballs to be nice and matched up. So pin that nicely along and then sew your 1/4 inch seam along so you get that nice unit. We're going to be doing that just like our block, our first block of the week. We're going to be doing this both rows here. We're going to be doing this one and the bottom unit. You're going to be wanting to pin this, matching up, nesting, matching up these snowball corner units here so that they make a nice crisp corner, white little corner. I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch on each one of these units here. So I've sewn my units here, and they've matched up really nice. And then look at the nice little square it makes in the middle. Very important. Let me get my pins here. Very important now. This is a very easy block this week. What we're going to be doing is, by all means, what I would like you to do is whichever seam, when you go to iron it, iron one seam this way and iron this seam that way. That way, when you go to put the rows together, this center seam will match up really nice and you won't have that big lump. You'll just have a nice nested, you can put your pin right in the middle there. One seam's going this way, one seam's going that way. And then our corner units, our little snowball here, you want to match up on each corner. You've sewn them and you've cut them pretty good so that they should do well. And you just want to come and you want to match up all your corners, make sure you pin, and this final seam will be, hopefully that will match. You can see the importance now of our 1/4 inch seam. So hopefully, I will come back and I'll have a nice square in the center. We shall see. Here's my finished block. Block number 2. I'm quite thrilled. A little bit wonky, even with pinning. It's okay though. I like my little square in the middle. I like my little units over here. I just am so thrilled. I just am so thrilled. And look at this. Is it pretty much 12.5 inches square? That 1/4 inch seam. Hopefully you'll be having this ruler and you'll be getting that little bit of satisfaction that you're 12.5 inches square. If it's a little less or a little bit more, doesn't matter. Don't stress about it. But here is our second block. And I hope you can see that the ironing, that the pressing is so important to make your blocks just sing. Just be so lovely. Let me get the, hold on, let me get the, my first week's block here. Oh, look, we have the beginnings of a quilt. And again, you'll have had your colorways, and you can see that, you know, a little bit of this fat quarter, a little bit of that fat quarter just makes it delightful. Your eye travels. I always say your eye should travel across a quilt to see the interest from one end to the other. And when you're with you're not going to be using all the fabric in the 12 to 15 fat quarters or whatever fabric, because you're just using bits here and there, but you wanted that variety. So when you have 20 blocks that your eye travels all over, whether even it be 2 colors or like me, a myriad of colors all in the same colorway, I think you'll be delighted with the end result. But here, block number 1 and block number 2. We are on our way, and I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making this, folks. Thanks so much for coming along here, and I'll put my thinking cap on for block number 3. All right, see you later. Bye.